Welcome back in, guys. Inside the Pod with Lou here. Like we start every podcast with a Bible verse, and today's Bible verse led us to the book of Ephesians 1, verse 7. He is so rich in kindness and grace that he purchased our freedom with the blood of his Son and forgave our sins. Ephesians 1, 7. And with that being said, I'm with
Michael Hernandez, otherwise known as MLH Media by some people. But yeah, Michael Hernandez. That's my actual name. A lot of people think it's actually MLH. It's kind of crazy, but
it's MLH, bro. Ever since I've known you and I kind of interacted with you, all the fighters, they call you MLH.
Yeah, everybody calls me MLH, man. Which honestly, it's cool because like as growing up, it's kind of funny. Like you like doodle and like notebooks and stuff like that. I always used to make the M, and like you can make the M connect to the L and then make it like H. I don't know if that really makes sense when you're thinking about it, but I can write it out for you after.
Yeah.
And I always used to do that like growing up. So it's funny now that like that's my like branding, quote unquote, is MLH Media or whatever.
So how did MLH Media even start then?
Yeah, interesting. That's always the question everybody asks me, like when I'm doing this kind of whole, media stuff, and when I start doing the post-fight interviews, when I start doing everything. So basically how I got into everything was I was working for the COS newspaper at the time, kind of like how we were talking a little bit before I hopped on here. And so I was working for the COS newspaper at the time, and I had an assignment in the class, which was to cover a live event. And so for me, I didn't want to like cover like a festival, like a walk in the park or like a farmer's market. Like I liked sports. Like that was always what I liked doing. So I was, I don't know, I was kind of just not really into football at the moment. Like I liked the NFL, but I didn't really have a thing. Like I would go to the COS football games, but there was just something about it, which is where I was like, I don't know. And so my brother at the time, my brother still, but my brother at the time was like getting into mixed martial arts, and he was just like, hey, I've been training at this spot. It's called Seventh Generation Jiu-Jitsu over there in Clovis, and I really want to go watch my friend fight. He's fighting over there at the Visalia Rawhide Ballpark over there on, I think it was like in August or in September of 2022. And I was like, oh yeah, sure, like, at first I was a little hesitant, because I was kind of going through some stuff at home where I was like, and just going through some stuff overall in my life that brought me to COS at that point, to where I just really was like, I didn't like being out in public that much, and being out in a whole new environment at that, like being with like around fighters and being around like, MMA events can get a little wild. Little people get frisky, people get drunk. So I was just like, wasn't trying to be in that environment. But my brother's like, dude, no, it'll be a good time. Me, you, Matthew will go, which is my other brother. And so we all went to the event. It was a good time. I watched it from the stands. So I was like watching from like behind the, like, I wasn't in the media row at the time. And I took some notes. I did some like just results notes, some notes on the overall crowd atmosphere. I wrote an article about it. And then after I wrote that article, I ended up getting hit up by one of the 559 Fights media members at the time. And he kind of just let me know, hey, like if you were interested on coming out to the next event and being a media member, let me know, and we can get you on the media list. I said, oh yeah, that'd be awesome. Like I thought that was a cool opportunity. So I go out to the event, I'm moving around, I'm kind of doing my thing, and I ended up meeting Mateo Rodriguez, who is still working with the company, and he was kind of just like, hey man, like I think we're kind of needing somebody to help out with socials. Like I don't know if you were interested in possibly working for 559, but if you were, let me know, and we can, possibly get you onto, working with the company. And so eventually that was kind of the role I took on, was I just started doing like their socials, and then eventually that evolved to me doing the post-fight interviews. And then from there I kind of realized, hey, I could, it kind of made me start to get my feet wet in the media scene, and that was kind of what I wanted to do originally. And so it just overall helped me see my path, see what I want to do. I was like, all right, I want to do this interview stuff, I want to do this media stuff. So I started looking up on like MMA events online. So I started asking the referees and stuff like, how do I find out what events to go to? And so they're like, oh, we have a website. So camomma.org, I would go on there and I'd look and see. I'd be like, all right, cool, upcoming events. This one in Salinas, this one in San Francisco, this one in Napa, whatever. And I would try and make my way out there, and I would, hit up whoever the promoter was and do post-fight interviews. And from there, yeah, that was just kind of how I ended up eventually getting involved with A1. How I ended up eventually getting involved with Fight Night San Jose and doing stuff like that. So, yeah, that was kind of the overall arcing story of MLH Media.
And that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I mean, and then, so obviously doing post-fight, what led you into getting into commentary? Because commentary is different, right?
Yeah, I always never like imagined even me doing post-fight interviews. Like I always liked the idea of it. I was like growing up, and I even remember like my freshman year of high school, I was in Avid, and that was like the program that I was in. And so my teacher Miss Poor was like, what do you guys want to be? And I remember going up there and I said, like, I want to be like a baseball commentator. At the time, I had I had not done any training for that. I'd never done anything to even get me to that path. But I just was like, I don't know. I like talking about sports. People always say, oh, yeah, you seem pretty knowledgeable at it. And I was like, all right, well, that seems like a good path for me. So I just started doing the post-fight interviews. And then from there, I just started gaining a little bit more rapport with the guys, started talking to guys and started really just developing a relationship with them. And then eventually A1 Combat came to the Visalia Convention Center and they were like, hey, we need somebody to do the commentary for this event. We don't have anybody. Like, would you be interested? And a lot of the guys on the card were 559 Fights veterans. So for me, it was really cool to be able to see a lot of the guys that I had watched in the amateurs or had watched at one point fight for 559. So I said, heck yeah, like I'd do that. So I ended up doing that. And then that kind of just opened the door for being able to do commentary for other events and for other promotions. And eventually 559 opened up an opportunity for their commentary team to have me on. So that was kind of just how I ended up getting involved with the commentary. And post fights interviews were like the first love. Crazy. I used to do them walking out of the cage. I didn't even used to have like a backdrop, like all that backdrop stuff that was kind of added on a little bit after I started doing it for a bit. I used to just find a little like random, like, oh man, I wish I could, like, I know the videos are on Instagram or they're on my phone somewhere, but like, dude, backstage, like, of the Visalia Convention Center right next to the restrooms. Like, I don't know why I chose that spot. I thought that was a good area, but that was where we shot them first. It was so, oh man, so chweck looking back at it, but like, it's so cool now to see where it's going and like where it's gone.
Kind of
yeah.
Transpired to
100%.
Yeah. Cause I think when we went to our first event, it was like, think of it like your first day in school, or as a freshman going into high school.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like we're there. I knew you. I met Rick from Boxing Vitals, and there was a few people, but everyone else was okay, first time, right? And
yeah.
I was just kind of like trying to. And our second time was a little bit more okay, welcome, and it's always been welcoming, but it was just more like, okay, we're here. That's when we met Daniel, one of the matchmakers.
Yeah.
And so he was like, oh yeah, we watched the podcast and met his uncle, and then it was kind of cool interacting. And then I was like, hey, you should come on the podcast. He's like, yeah, I'm down. So now, what I kind of want to do, like I was telling you last night a little bit, I want to eventually start bringing people on because kind of crazy story. The referee, Daniel Manriquez, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because he was my drill instructor when I was in the academy.
Yeah,
now he's a referee, So when I went up to him, he's like, oh, bro, I'm so sorry if I had to make you a man. And I was like, no, you're good. I was like, it's just funny how full circle moment. We're both here. He's doing a different career. I'm doing a different career. Same thing with us is like, I did post fights for Big Dog, and then I did not post fights for you guys, but I did post fights with the fighters that we podcasted with. Mm-hmm. First time around, it ended up being pretty good. Second time around, it wasn't the result they wanted. So, as we continue to do this, when you come up with questions, do you have questions? And I'm asking you this in general, so people that watch us, like me kind of asking another, I guess, media guy.
Yeah.
How do you come up with the questions? Do you already have them kind of like thought out, or does it kind of like on the moment kind of thing?
It just depends. There's certain guys where I know, like, oh yeah, like this is a question I want to ask this guy, like going into his camp. I've been seeing a lot of things about this or that, For example, I mean, one of the last guys I interviewed was Shane Collins, and one of the biggest things for him was going back and fighting in Long Beach, fighting in front of a Thunder Studios crowd that he has seen before, and things like that. And overall, building the story. That's the biggest thing I think behind fighting that a lot of people oftentimes overlook of why they like it. You didn't like Conor and Khabib because it was Conor and Khabib. If it was just an Irish guy and a Russian dude fighting, you really wouldn't care.
Yeah.
But it's because of the story behind it and because of this characters and because of these enigmas that these guys have built behind themselves. And so I think if more people were able to kind of see that from the outside looking in and be like, oh, wow, like if we're able to go ahead and actually contribute to these guys' stories and be like, oh, this is something that I can relate to, then I think you would definitely see a lot more of these interviews for fighters that like not only you're able to pull stuff from, but you're also able to relate to, And I think fighters are slowly starting to come around to being able to express themselves in these interviews. And I mean, you're even seeing it on the post-fight level. Like I have sometimes now where I'm talking to guys for like 3 to 5 minutes, and I'm just like, after a fight, which is crazy because I'm like, dude, you just fought for literally a third of the time that, I'm saying MMA fights are 15 minutes. So if we go 5 minutes for an interview, that's a third of the fight right there.
That's
They
a
just
round.
talk to me. Yeah, that's a round, literally. So it's pretty cool in terms of what you're able to draw from guys in those big moments in their lives.
Yeah, and then so like obviously I know that as we're continuing to grow this podcast, right, we're gonna interview all these different fighters, and it was different because the first time both fighters we interviewed won, second time around they lost, right, and it kind of it kind of felt like a friend or a family member losing, bro. Like it was kind of like a unique feeling, and I want to share this because as that moment we're interviewing, right, with Robert and Matthew, then Justin comes out, and then, hey, how's it going? Congratulations, right? And then we kind of talked, and my wife was like, hey, well, what about Robert? And I'm like, I'm not saying anything bad. We're always gonna be a fan of Robert, Matthew, and just in general the fighters, especially if they come on the podcast. But I was like, technically we're media. Like Justin just became the champ. Now we got to get his story out to people, and at the end of the day, we got to like not move on, but we got to try to make it to where it can't get personal. Because that's hard, right? Because like you said, you meet these guys, you interview with these guys. I think one of the interviews that caught my attention that I liked, and I liked how you did the background when you did that look when he's like, no one effing talked to me. And then you're right there. He's like, you're cool or you're good. And then dude, that was so funny.
Yeah, that's my guy.
But that was that's what I'm trying to say is like, I always thought when you interact with the fighters, like they're gonna be a certain way, bro. But they're actually like, so far up to date, everyone's been really, just great with us, right? And so I want to say it's hard not to get personal. So I was gonna ask you, like, do you ever like take in a certain fighter that you feel like, not that that's my friend or my boy, because I mean they can be, but does it ever get like personal to you?
The more and more that I get into the scene, and the more and more that guys get pro and they have to get pitted against each other, definitely does get a little bit harder for me, because then it's like both sides of the coin I'm attached to.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, I like MMA because it's a lot different than other sports in terms of, you can be a Raiders fan, right? And, if you watch the Chiefs beat the absolute crap out of the Raiders, you're not going to go up to a Chiefs fan the next day and be like, man, you know what, though? That Patrick Mahomes, he just really is. He's just so good. You're going to be like, dude, I hate Patrick Mahomes. Like, I just cannot stand that guy.
Yeah.
I can't stand Travis Kelce, whatever. Like, but for whatever reason in MMA, I feel like it's a lot more different when you see another fighter beat your favorite fighter, or you see another guy beat that guy. You don't so much like hate that guy. Like, I don't think a lot of the fans of Max Holloway hate Ilia Topuria. They may not like Ilia Topuria because oh yeah, he beat Max, but they have a lot of respect for Ilia Topuria, and I think it's the same exact way with the fighters. So I think that's the very interesting realm that we're in, is that a lot of these guys, they don't take it personally. If, for example, like, Robert obviously was a very dominant champion at 559, but he had his fall against Justin, and going up to talk to Justin after, like, you are very much right. Like, that is the job of a media source, is to be able to cover the overall story of an event, not just one fighter. And so I feel that a lot of people miss that oftentimes when they're talking about just in general sports. They don't look at both sides of the coin, but that is what I feel MMA does a really good job of, is because there's just so much attached to MMA. I mean, you can get knocked out, you can break a limb. There's so many things attached that it almost makes you look at both sides of the coin. It's not just like winning a game or losing a game, where another guy at the end of the day is going to be okay if he loses a football game or if he loses a baseball game. It's not a matter of serious health consequences like how it possibly could be in mixed martial arts.
No, that was a good breakdown. And then speaking of Robert, he took on a short notice fight. He's going to be fighting on the October 19th card, and kind of like a little bit of you too. It kind of speaks of your work ethic, right? You stepped in. We were trying to get Kyle to come on, and one of the Avalos brothers, and we were just asking people to kind of, you guys have an event coming up October 19th. It's going to be your guys' second pro event, right?
Yeah.
So kind of tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we got our second pro event, Christian Avalos, Samuel Alvarez in the main event. Really, really excited to go ahead and see those two kind of warriors collide, the alley cat and the land shark, as they're called. And it's really cool, 209 versus 559 in a sense. You got Stockton versus Fresno. So I feel like those are two really gritty areas. We got to see a little bit of that showdown go down over there at A1 Combat 30 with Ezekiel Martinez and Brandon Betancourt. And Brandon Betancourt got the win over there for the 559. possibly looking to see Christian Avalos get another win for the 559 if he is able to go ahead and defeat Samuel Alvarez for the second time. Or the 209 evens it up with Samuel Alvarez getting the victory over Christian Avalos in a fight that many people thought Christian Avalos lost the first one in, but it is obviously still a win for the Landshark. And he is the all-time reigning champ for A1 Combat currently and is now looking to capture his second belt over there for 559, possibly looking to put his name into Dana White Contender Series contention. Looking over there in the main event, co-main event, you got Jesse Rosas and Luciano Ramos. Jesse Rosas, brother of Raul Rosas Jr., so looking to go ahead and further his legacy, possibly looking to stamp his own name into the UFC and the Dana White Contender Series, possibly with a big win over Luciano Ramos, another 209 native over there from Stockton, California. So really good co-main event, really good main event. Really excited for our first chance for the event to go ahead and be on demand on Fight Pass, so fight fans will be able to go ahead and watch it back on UFC Fight Pass and live on YouTube. So if you go ahead and subscribe to the 559 Fights YouTube, you'll be able to go ahead and watch the event live, which I think is a pretty cool thing. If you also purchase a membership, you'll be guaranteed to watch it because we always make sure that the memberships that the members are able to watch the fights live. So if you are a YouTube member for the 559 Fights, you will be able to watch 559 Fights 118. And yeah, really, really excited for that event. Really excited to have you out there as well, man.
Yeah, no, appreciate it. And it's going to be on a Sunday, right?
Yeah, Sunday. Sunday is the new day for the MMA events over there at Eagle Mountain. So
okay.
it's what we're looking to go ahead and do. I'm really excited to go ahead and kind of just overall have that venue. Eagle Mountain's always been very generous to us. So being able to go over there on a Sunday, you know, you got to go watch football in the morning and go watch some butt kickings in the afternoon and into the evening. So I think it's a pretty good way to go ahead and get fans out there, and I'm really excited to go ahead and see the results come October 19th.
Yeah, speaking of Raul Rosas, he's going to actually make an appearance, right?
Yeah, he's going to be the event host over there along with Yusuf Zalal, who just got a win over Josh Emmett in the first round via armbar over there at UFC 320. So it's going to be a really good event, really good showcase for those gentlemen to go ahead and, I mean, overall just experience a whole new crowd. I mean, the 559 has loved these fighters over here at 559 Fights, and just overall with all this Valley MMA kind of just blow up and just really this scene kind of just coming back alive. And I think that Raul Rosas and his fan base and his already growing, he's got a great following. Yusuf Zalal is building a following as well. He's one of the top rising guys at 145. So really excited to have those guys in the building. Really excited to see them watch the talent on display at 559 Fights.
Yeah, I know that we talked about it off camera, but we'll bring it on. I know Josh Come Up, Kid Simpson was supposed to be on the card, right?
Yeah.
And being the co-main event. However, an injury has let him off the card. And then they replaced it with Raul Rosas' brother. What's his name again?
Yeah, so he was actually going to fight Raul Rosas' brother. It was going to be Jesse Rosas and Josh Simpson, but Josh unfortunately did have a little bit of an injury, so he is not able to participate in the event, and so it's going to be Luciano Ramos stepping in and taking on Jesse Rosas over there at the Eagle Mountain Casino.
And then this is 559 is mainly known for the amateur, right? But this is your guys' second pro main event, right?
Yeah, so this is going to be our second pro event, and it's just overall really exciting to have these guys. I mean, they're even going to have Shane Christie, who is Porterville's own guy over there. He's going to be taking on Trent Ebarb, another rising guy over there out of Sacramento, out of Team Alpha Male. It's the black belt underneath the Team Alpha Male team over there. So you know that he's coming in with some good moves, and you know Shane Christie is coming in. I mean, he's finished all his guys when he has been at the pro level. So really, really excited to see Shane Christie go at it with Trent Ebarb. Really excited to see, I mean, just overall this whole pro card, really, really excited to see everything go down. You got Brian Benavidez over there from Porterville. He's going to be coming back, taking on Michael Santiago. So really, really excited to have this pro card, and really excited to go ahead and see all the action go down over there at EMC, man.
Yeah, so check it out. October 19th, it's going to be at the Eagle Mountain Casino in Porterville. So if you haven't got your tickets, I see on the internet all the time or all the posts that they're selling out pretty fast.
Yeah, no, those things are flying like hotcakes, man. Like from McDonald's when it's like right around 10, going into 11, breakfast about to close. Like, that's how they're selling right now. So better make sure, buy your tickets right now.
Yeah,
on
sure.
etix.com. Go ahead, head to the Porterville Eagle Mountain Casino website. They should have a ticket link over there. Or if not, you just head to 559fights.com, head to the Get Tickets link, and you should be able to get directed over there to 559 Fights 118. Yeah. Or if not, worst comes to worst, if you really do not want to search that much, go to the 559 Fights Instagram story, click the link there.
There you go. Well, we'll make sure to post it because we're going to post your podcast this week, hopefully by Friday. So that way we can prepare for Sunday. And no, man, so we'll kind of jump in it a little bit too, kind of talking about, we kind of jumped right in the podcast, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah, right.
I'll just say like tell me about yourself, but we kind of already kind of talked a little bit about that. But you are a local kid, right? You're out of a small town, just like myself and a lot of the other these fighters. You're out of Dinuba, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I grew up in Dinuba. I was born and raised over there. Graduated from Dinuba High School. Played. I know you've been in the central football scene, so
Yes.
I've been kind of played football over there for 4 years. So I was a DB. Was never much of a DB. Never played too much, but definitely had my experience in terms of that. Played ran track and field as well. And that's kind of where I got my roots in terms of the broadcasting scene. I used to do we had like a television broadcast kind of channel over there, so I used to help run that and facilitate that. So that's how I got involved into all of that, and then eventually decided, hey, I want to go to Cal Poly after my studies were done over there. After that, I was at Cal Poly for about a year. Actually graduated right as soon as COVID started. So I graduated in 2020, and then COVID kind of happened. So I was the first year in college was all online. I just was over in Dinuba. I was living in Visalia at the time, working at Target. And I worked for Target for about 3 years after the pandemic. So 2020 to 2023, I was working over there and just going to school at Cal Poly. And
So you were traveling from Visalia to Cal Poly?
uh,
Are you mainly remote?
I was mainly remote for so I was all remote for the first year. And then the second year, once COVID kind of slowed down a little bit, that's when they invited me on campus. I got a place over there. And that's actually when I kind of had the stuff happen in my life. So I actually had one of my really, really close friends kind of that I was really close with at the time. And, he ended up passing away. So I just was kind of going through it in terms of my life. And I didn't really know if I wanted to continue going to a 4-year university, living by myself. Not living by myself, live with other people, but living, not amongst other people.
Not with family.
Yeah, not with family, not with people that I knew. And I was only 18 going on 19, so I was super young. And I just really was not ready for that step in my life yet to be able to handle all that on my own. So I went back to COS, and I looking back at it, I always say it's like one of the best decisions of my life doing it, because had I not done that, I probably would have never found out about 559 fights. I probably would have been in a completely different route. I probably would have not even ever endeavored into MMA. Who knows, So it's pretty crazy the way that everything ends up kind of coming into fruition and everything ends up flowing back to you,
Well, I'm going to have to drop my favorite Bible verse right there, right? Isaiah 60:22. So when the time is right, I, the Lord, will make it happen. It comes back down to timing.
Yeah, 100%.
Speaking of 2020, bro, I was, at the time in law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
If you would have told me, we talked about this last night on the phone too. If you would have told me 5 years ago, hey, bro, you're going to be podcasting, you're going to be working on 559 fights, you're going to be working with different organizations, you're going to be doing this, I would have been like, you're crazy.
Yeah, no.
There's no way,
It's the same thing for me. I mean, when I was graduating high school, I thought I was a communications major originally going into Cal Poly, so I was looking to get a desk job. Just I wasn't not looking at the end of my high school. I was just like, dude, I just want a job that's gonna pay well and that's gonna do everything that I need be. I don't really care about being on TV. I don't really care about doing this or that. And then I started going to school. I started doing everything, and even before my friend had passed away, I definitely had my moments when I was there for my first year at school. And maybe people watching this could kind of I hope maybe they can look at this and maybe relate a little bit. I just had a lot of imposter syndrome my first year, especially like how you said, I was being from a small town. Going to Cal Poly, it was literally the same size as my town. Going to Cal Poly, the campus alone, going on campus and everything, that's about 20,000 students. Dinuba is about 25,000 people. So, I mean, do the math. It was
You're right there.
It was a pretty big change for me. Even living in San Luis Obispo. I mean, you're living in a town. I'm not trying to bring up race. It doesn't really matter. But you're living in a town full of white people. I lived in freaking Dinuba, which is basically full of Mexican people. I could go to a taco shop any corner I wanted. Over there, it's a little bit tougher, So just the change of living over there
and the cost of living too.
No, that was actually going to be the next thing I brought up. Was just living over there was just a complete different change of pace. I had no idea. I was not prepared for. And it's not one of those things until you do it, and I think that's one of those things that, I mean, maybe if there are younger people watching this, when you do make that step into college, I even tell my brother now, I'm so happy that he went down the junior college route, because he wasn't too sure of what he wanted to do. And I'm like, dude, if you're not sure of it, it's better to not put yourself into that debt, or to even put yourself into that space of where you're potentially going to be looking at yourself in a couple of years being like, dang, I should have not done this. Because once obviously you do a couple of years, yeah, you are going to feel like, man, I should just finish it out, which is what everybody's going to feel, but I think that's why taking that step back and taking that reevaluation in the moment is really key, because then it's all right, cool. I know where I'm supposed to be, and this is where I want to be. And that's the biggest thing, is where you want to be. I think it's the biggest thing.
And I think that's awesome, Mike, because if you think about it, bro, like that whole point of this podcast is exactly what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It's about Central Valley talent coming from a small town. Everything you just described is what I'm trying to basically show the athletes of the Valley, but in general, bringing on all the talented people, like you talked about, going through your struggles, your difficulties, imposter syndrome, being on a campus that was as big as your town.
Yeah.
Like all these people and these kids are going to go through the same thing. Eventually, like our goal is to reach the youth. That's why you see us in high school football.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, as of today, we try to get a CIF pass, because football is easy.
Yeah.
You think about it, bro. We interview on a Wednesday, we go on a Friday. Done, right? You're going to do, now we start going to basketball. You got girls basketball, you got boys basketball. Then you go wrestling.
Those games are all throughout the,
and it's all throughout the week, and I'm once again not, unfortunately, it does come back down to a little bit about the money, but it's not about getting into the things for free. It's about just, if we want us to be able to cover all this, that's where the pass would eventually help the athletes and us in general. Like, we don't get paid to do it. At least for now, we're not trying to, it's like you said, it can't be about the money, especially when you're starting off, in media. Like you said, the one thing I did like about when we interacted with one another was that I think that's where the biggest, and remember, I came from a whole different field, bro. So when I'm coming into this, talk about imposter syndrome, I could definitely relate, even though my age is there, experience in different areas, though. That's why when I was I gave you and Sergio your flowers on Rick Vitals' podcast, Boxing Vitals. I was like, you guys are younger in age, but as far as the fight game, bro, you guys have been there. You guys have kind of been around it, right? Yeah. Even though it's been a few years, you're commentating, bro. Like, that's something we had Fight Culture on.
Yeah.
So she talked about her dream combo or collab is with you.
Yeah, no, that'd be sick, man.
And kind of like maybe down the road, right?
Yeah.
In God's timing. But what I liked about all this is, like I said, this is the point of it, bro. Everything you just literally said is like, that's where there's going to be a bunch of MLH Media guys out there when we're going. Because I'm noticing now, as I'm going into the high schools, media is a big thing at some of these schools. Like, I'll give their props right now. Liberty Madera, bro, they have one of the best media teams. So shout out to the teacher and to Liberty Madera Media. They're on it, dude. Like,
yeah,
they're doing it's called Coach's Corner. So every week they're interviewing like volleyball, football, baseball, basketball, girl. So they got everything highlighted, and I really love that. So I'm trying to implement it and just throw ideas to the little schools. So it's kind of like a shout out to them, to you, to Sergio, and just everybody that's kind of doing it. It's not as easy as it looks.
No, 100%, man. I always tell people the biggest thing that I wanted, and after a while, like when I first started doing media and when I first started doing all this stuff, I never really envisioned it would be like the reason why I do it is why it would be the reason why I do it. But now looking back at it, looking at all these years of doing this stuff and, press releases and countless interviews and doing all this and all that, there's just something about being able to not only like tell somebody's story, but being able to look at that person in the eye and like, you can really tell like that person feels that you told their story, not only in a righteous way, but in a fair way. And I feel like there's just no other feeling compared to that. And then on top of that, being able to, like how you said, be an example to youth that coming up, like, I've had kids come up to me and be like, dude, like, I never even knew I could do like that. Like, I never knew I could be a commentator. I never knew I could be an interviewer.
Yes.
And that's cool. Like, that's cool that they now have that. And I mean, who knows? They probably won't ever become that because, it's a rough industry. But, if
but at least they have someone that an outlet.
Exactly. And like, that's the biggest thing is like them being able to look at that and be like, oh, wow, like I can go and do that. Like Michael went and did it. Okay, cool. Like I can do that. Or, oh, Lou did a podcast. I can do, and I think the biggest thing is being able, they always say in college, it's the biggest thing is representation through presentation. So you can't have somebody, want to be the president and they've never ever seen anybody become the president before or something, so of that race, like if a person in Mexico like has never seen somebody from a certain district ever become president, of course they're never going to envision themselves becoming president because they've never seen somebody around them become president. They've never seen anybody around them become a government official. It's the same process with being a media member, like most of the time, a lot of these people don't know that they can get into this stuff because they're not seeing the opportunities presented to them. So I feel they're able to see somebody in their community, they're able to see somebody that's like them, that's, grew up in a similar path to them. Like, you know, I mean, if I'm right around the street in Dinuba, you know, so it's like if anybody ever in Dinuba is like, I don't know how to do this stuff, you know, it's cool that I've been reached out to for that type of stuff too. So, yeah, I'm just very blessed to be in the position I'm in terms of being able to be I guess, guidance at the age I'm at, you know, because like how you're saying too, you're like, you know, 22. And I think about it too sometimes. I'm like, damn, I really am only 22. I feel a lot older, but I'm only 22.
That's crazy, bro. Like, I'm telling you, like, I think in a way with my age, dude, I mean, I would have been a young father, but I could technically be your father, you know?
Definitely would have been a young one, man.
Yeah,
Definitely would have been a young
right,
father.
bro.
But nah, that's what I look at too. I'm like, dude, like a lot of the people that I work with sometimes, I'm like, man, like, you know, like they could be my uncle, or they could be my dad, or they could be this.
No,
but
see, uncle for
I don't
sure.
know. You know, it's crazy to me. But no, I definitely think it's cool now that I'm like getting to be an age where I'm like, oh dang, like, man, I used to think I was so old at 19. Like, you know, you think you have everything figured out when you're like 18, 19 years old, and you really don't. Like, you don't have
Nothing.
I mean, excuse my French, you don't have shit figured out, like, at all. Like, you think, like, I mean, dude, if you were to tell 18-year-old me, like how I said that I would be doing what I am now, he'd probably be like, dude, you're smoking crack. Like, that's not happening. And so it's super, like, I don't know, it's super funny to me to look back on my journey and to, like, see how everything has transpired and where I've gone and how everything has gone, you know?
You know, one thing I do want to touch on, though, speaking about your journey and what you do, right? The interviewing, the post-fight, the commentary. The one thing I did notice, and how did this start? But you wear a bow tie, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool, bro. My wife noticed it one day.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Hey, his bow tie." And then I noticed you wore a pink one recently because probably the breast.
Yeah, breast cancer awareness. Yeah,
but,
I always try and switch it up. Yeah.
Yeah. How did that start though?
Yeah.
Is that
So
like
the
your
bow
trigger
tie.
thing?
Yeah. No, it was just, you know, I thought looking formal at the events was a good thing. I was like used to just dress up in general and just would be in like black slacks and black shirt, whatever. And I never could tie a tie. Like, I don't know why. I have a bachelor's degree. I'm a pretty smart guy, I'd like to think. But like, just like doing a double Windsor, dude, you can't catch me doing it, dude. Like, I just can't do it. Like, I cannot do it. I can do it, but it takes me like 5 or 6 times. And I just, after a while, I get really tired of it, get really annoyed. So I just was like, I need to find something that's formal, that can be flashy, but not too flashy. You know, I don't want to do the whole like wearing like a silk suit or wearing like, you know, I don't know, just doing something too crazy that'd be super expensive. So I'm like, what's something that people can look at and be like, oh, okay, like that's cool, you know? And so I seen Ken Rosenthal. He's a MLB insider, and he like does a lot of reporting. You've probably seen him after the games.
Baseball guy.
Talks to, you know, and he would always wear bow ties. And I always thought it was really cool that he would wear the bow tie, and you know, and I kind of bit it a little bit from him. But what I do and what I try and do is, so 559 fights, I wear the red tie. For Fight Night San Jose, I wear the turquoise tie because it's in San Jose Sharks.
Oh, okay.
So I always try to do it as an ode to wherever I'm at.
I like
Sometimes when we're in Sacramento, I'll wear all black because Johnny Cash, he's the man in black. So it's like I always try and do a little bit of an ode. That's like my secret little like some people like, oh, it's like, why do you wear this color? Why do you wear this? I like, we'll give them the reason. You know, pink, wore it for breast cancer awareness. I always like to switch it up. I always like to kind of bring out a different one. Mostly for 559, it's usually the red one, or, you know, I've kind of switched it up in past times where I've just been like, I don't really want to wear red all the time. You know, I don't want people to think I'm like gang affiliated too. So it's like, you know, but all these organizations love red, man. A1 Combat, 559 Fights, like they all are red. So I kind of have to find different ways to make it unique. But I think it's cool.
Fresno, I mean, we're gonna get gang affiliated, but Fresno Bulldogs.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you know, I'm just not trying to bark up any wrong trees. You know, no
especially in Fresno,
intended.
right? You could legit be a Fresno State Bulldog fan. Wear a hat or a sweater, and then you're in the wrong area of town, or And I know yesterday we had Isaiah Washington on, right? And we were talking about that. Like, it doesn't have to necessarily be that way, but some people assume that, you know,
exactly. Yeah,
we there's a stigma, right? We could joke about it right here, but I mean, at the end of the day, we are trying to be positive. You're from Dinuba, I'm from Mendota / Farbo area. We are just trying to bring positivity to the valley.
Yeah,
you know, I think sometimes people look at the valley a lot of times and they're like, think bad, right? Because we're known for certain things, but maybe on this new realm of us kind of coming up, like I can tell you right now, bro, like, and that's why when I bring it to the school districts and we talk about all this, is like no one's doing commentating, there's not very many podcasts, and I can tell you, like, at least you still a little bit young, where you don't have a family, you haven't done that yet, which I'm so happy for you that you kind of found it. Me, is on the other hand, it's so different, you know, in my late 30s, had a whole career. now I'm starting this whole new venture. So imagine I have the people like, dude, what are you doing? You can't do this, you can't do that. And I just look at it like back to God's timing, bro. I think this is all faith based. I'm not trying to push the Lord on anybody's throat or anything. I tell people like, when you talk to me off camera or even on camera, like it's the same version. I don't try to switch it up. I am who I am. And I feel like the Lord did kind of save me and brought me through. Obviously, you said you had some hard times with your friend passing and, going over there to imposter syndrome. I never went to school like that. So I've always kind of stayed local, and I think if I would have probably took that step, it would have been a little different, bro, because especially at a young age, coming from a town where you hit it perfect, Mendota and Farbar are two different towns, similar, but Mendota's like kind of like I would say like more of a Danuba. There's a lot more Mexicans.
Yeah,
you're gonna go to the bunch of different taco spots, and you're gonna have what and then you go somewhere else, and it's like culture shock.
Yeah, no, it was a real big culture shock. Like, bro, I was going to San Luis Obispo, and they're like, yeah, you want to go get like a Mediterranean bowl? I'm like, you mean like a Mexican taco bowl? Like, what do you mean a Mediterranean bowl? What is that? Like, obviously, I'm joking. I know what the Mediterranean, like, I'm not that dumb, but it was more so like of a metaphor, as in, dude, like the only Mediterranean food I ever knew was like Nick the Greek. Like that was like Mediterranean food. Even then, that was like I thought that was a cool little family restaurant. I didn't know that was a chain until I moved to Slow.
Yeah.
And they had a Nick the Greek too. And then it's like, dude, what? Like, they're all
this?
over. Yeah. But no, it's just one of those things. Like how you said, it's a complete culture shock. Like you think, oh yeah, like I mean, growing up in Fresno or near the Fresno area too, it's like you think, oh yeah, I've seen big cities. Fresno has 500,000 people. It's bigger than Slow, but you go to Slow and it's a real olive branch of everybody. You're getting people from Colorado, you're getting people from SoCal, you're getting people from NorCal, you're getting people from Arizona, you're getting people from Washington, you're getting people from freaking different countries, So it really was, like how you said, a true shock in terms of culture and being around other people and being around other races and being around, like, I think I'd never met a Jewish person until I went to San Luis Obispo. And that's not even me joking. That's me being like 100% serious, which is like crazy, like to say that out loud, But like I'd never met another Jewish person, Jewish person, like until I was in San Luis Obispo. Or like I'd never met like a large group of Muslim people until I'd like moved to San Luis Obispo, and I'd like moved around and went to other areas in LA and stuff like that. So it just goes to show like how really small in terms of the Central Valley we are. Like when you do grow up in these small towns, when you are from an area like Dinuba, even like Visalia, where it's like 100,000 people, like, but
it's growing, but
you're thinking about California. I mean, how many towns have 100,000 people here? It's like, there's a good amount of them, at least compared to other cities and at least compared to other states. And so it just, it's a real, like how you said, it takes some time to be able to just adjust and grasp your feet and be able to breathe, But once you do, I feel like it's a good thing. And I feel once you're able to come back to the Valley and bring that back and be that good example of like, hey, you can come back and you can endeavor more, you can contribute, I think that's a big thing. And I think more people need to see that, I think more people need to be able to see that route. And so I think the more routes and opportunities that people are given, it's only the better,
and
like how you had Isaiah, my bad, I was gonna say, like how you had Isaiah on, like, a lot of kids probably don't even know they can do comedy, and so for them to be able to
Isaiah.
see,
I'm thinking Isaiah Walls right
no, exactly, but Isaiah, like, Isaiah Washington, like it's, these kids never would have probably thought of that until they seen one of his skits, and like that's a pretty cool thing to think about. Or even there's this he's from Fresno, he does like wrestling, ring announcing, T-Boogs. I don't know if you've seen that. Like he was on the Ellen show for the Fresno State Band. He just has a lot of good energy, And a guy like him, like he's going and he's doing stuff for schools and stuff like that. And it's like, it's good to have those type of people around in the community, and overall just building a better image of the Central Valley. So any part that I can be in it, and any part that I can kind of take part in that positivity, man, I'm more than happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, no, and then yesterday Isaiah kind of broke down a little bit of his story, going to Cleveland, how he ended up in comedy, all that. And I think, like I was trying to explain to him, him having a little bit of issues when he was a teenager. He talked about it. I was like, bro, that's exactly what this is about. Imagine all the Isaiahs out there that, are going through that, are in trouble, or whatever the case may be, their difficulty, their struggle. And then they see him now, how and he talked about, what I loved about our conversation yesterday a little bit was, he talked about how the struggle, people don't understand that he's kind of popular on the internet and he's growing, but he's not there yet. He still has to worry about how he's gonna put gas or worry how he's gonna do this, and he still has to go through the daily struggles that all of us have to go through.
Yeah,
You know?
no, and he's 100% right. Like people think me too. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, I like they think you see a couple thousand views on an Instagram video that you're like making money or you're like famous or you're, you know, and it's like, dude, I get my checks for my fights and I'm working check to check most of the time, you know, and I'm just like, and that's why I think a lot of these fighters also have that admiration for, not admiration, but you know, they have that same respect for me as well because they see that I'm doing that. They see that a lot of my time is dedicated to this fight game just as much as themselves. So, and I mean, it's cool, you know. Like I never, like how I said, never would have even thought that they would have that respect for me. You know, like I always just thought, man, these dudes could kill me if they wanted to. You know what I'm saying? And then now these guys are trying to, you know, like, hey man, like, you know, like talking to me about my life, like congratulating me on like the grappling match or congratulating me about graduating from college, and it's like, dude, you care? Like, you know, you actually look at my stuff. Like, oh wow, that's crazy, man. So it's cool.
Let's talk about that now. You kind of jumped in it, so I was gonna say your grappling match, right?
Yeah.
So you grappled. It was in was it in Sacramento?
Yeah. So it was over at Sac State for Combat U. They have like they're starting up their MMA program and stuff. So they had a gentleman, Brett Butson. They kind of wanted to find him a match, and they were just looking for somebody. So Hector had kind of mentioned it earlier in the week, and I was like, hey, well, if you can't find anybody, I'm gonna be doing the commentary. Worst comes to worst, I can end up doing it from the booth, and then I'll just go back. And he was like, are you sure you down to do that? It's like, you know, a lot in a day. But he knew I was down to do it. You know, he was like, all right, like, you know, I think you're with it. And so, not like I think you're with it, but like, you know, I trust you to do it.
Yeah, you can do it, yeah.
Yeah, so we ended up setting it up. And then from there, we ended up doing the match. And, I mean, obviously, you know, grateful that everything went the way it went. But yeah, no, it was a cool experience. I don't know if we'll be doing the commentary and the grappling everybody's like, you should have commentated while you were grappling. Like, how? Okay, first of all, how am I going to do that? Second of all, you can't even go in the cage and do it yourself, and you're telling me to do two things at once. Like, how about you do that? Like, I don't know, but I understand why people do want to see it because it would be
that was cool though, bro. Thing. And how did you like it?
It was fun, man. I've been grappling and like training for the last couple of years, so it was like, you know,
you won, huh?
It was definitely, yeah. I was able to get the win.
Congratulations!
Thank you, man. Thank you. Now it was yeah, it's cool, man. Like I like doing competitions and stuff like that. I like competing, you know. So it was cool. That was like my first actual grappling competition that I ever got to compete in. So like when I mean competitive, like I mean I'm just competitive in the gym in general. So like somebody gets one on me, it's like, bro, I gotta get one on you too, you know. So I'm the same way, like, you know. And so being able to get to try that out a little bit, being able to experience on a partial level, because obviously it's, you know, not the same as being in an actual MMA fight, but being able to be in those cage doors, feel how it feels when they get locked, and, you know, kind of forgetting everything once you do everything. Because that's one thing that I feel a lot of fighters always bring up, and it is very true. Once those like cage doors close and like you like do everything, you don't really remember much, like at all.
It just kind of happens.
Yeah, it just kind of happens. Yeah, like, and your brain just kind of takes over, and so it was very interesting. I did not expect that.
Yeah, no, that's cool, bro. I remember that night. I think we ended up texting somehow because we were gonna. I think 559 was gonna have the week after, and I hit you up for something. Yeah, like, hey, bro, you're all check me out. I'm gonna make my debut. I was like, what? I was like, shoot the link, and we ended up watching it. It was cool, bro.
That's
like,
cool.
It was a good experience. And Sac State is doing some big things out there. Like, they have Mike Bibby running their basketball program, and then Andre Ward is doing something with the boxing. So, like, and then now they're doing the grappling. So that's kind of cool that there's something like that going on, and it's not that far from the valley. I mean, it's a good little drive, but it's only 2 hours away. Which is, you know, to be able to get that experience with those type of people. I mean, that's kind of cool.
No, 100%. I think it's really cool. I think Hector Fajardo and the whole team over there, Corey and Joseph Morales, they all got like a really good idea and a construct of what they want to have moving forward with that program. So I think the biggest idea is having a construct and having a organization and being able to like, all right, cool, build off this. And like they're getting guys like Andre Ward, and I mean, obviously Joseph Morales is now in the UFC, so, you know, getting these guys that are at that top level in their sport or have been at that top level in their sport, it's a really, really big thing. I mean, they have Uriah Faber. He's also behind the program.
Yeah, no, he's the California kid.
Yeah, no,
I remember watching him growing up. You know, like I think he was one of the first UFC fighters that when I actually got into watching UFC, he was one of the guys I used to watch.
Yeah, no, it's wild too. Now I like work for him in a sense. Well,
I know.
I work with him.
You took a picture with him the other day. That's kind of cool. You get to talk to him, and I think that is something to where like I try to.
I trip out on that all the time.
That's awesome.
Like, I think it's so fucking crazy. I'm like, dude, this is Uriah Faber. Like, this is the guy. Like how you said, I used to grow up watching, and So no, it's
You
definitely
took a picture with
cool.
him and with
Dominic Cruz.
the
Yeah.
ex-UFC champ.
Dude, it was sick, man. They were right next to each other, and I was like, dude, this is a piece of MMA history. Like I usually I try not to ask guys that are like retired or guys that like aren't, because when I do the post fight interviews, I always take pictures with the guys just because I feel like it's a, like thumbnail, and just in general, like it's a good memory to have. Like
Yeah.
the more and more I've done this, I've always like, man, like I wish I took a photo with this guy. Like
Yeah.
now he's in the UFC, or oh man, I wish I took a photo with this to just commemorate the moment.
Yes.
Just like to remember that moment. And yeah, like that Uriah and Dominic Cruz picture. If I ever have an office one day, it will be framed and hung in there, because that thing,
Yeah.
it was sick as hell meeting him, and it was really cool. I mean, those are two like pioneers in terms of MMA. So
And then kind of talking about A1, dude. So like, you just do post fights for them right now?
yeah, so I do post fight interviews, like kind of help them, get like little, media here and there and stuff like that, and interviews and stuff like that, podcasts and all that good stuff. So
Do you do a podcast yourself?
so I do not do a pod. I have my own YouTube channel where I interview fighters and stuff like that, but I don't actually have like my own podcast. I have guys on where I'd maybe talk to them a little bit more than I talk to other
Average than an
people.
interviewer?
Yeah, exactly. Like I have one of my guys, his name's Bedtime MMA. He does he has his own YouTube channel. He has about like almost 100,000 subscribers. So
Oh, wow.
whenever me and him go on, like we're chatting for a while.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
and just because it's just, we both know MMA, we both love the sport, and so we're two chatterboxes once it comes to talking about the UFC. But like, I mean, obviously with fighters and stuff like that, a little bit more tongue in cheek, a little bit more, they don't want to be on talking for 20-30 minutes, which I completely understand. Sometimes too, it's always for the viewer. Like as a viewer,
Yeah.
do you as a viewer want to watch 20-minute fighter interview where he's like, yeah, I'm excited for this fight, man. Like should be a fun one,
Yeah.
ready to bang, like, and
No,
that's not hate
yes.
to fighters,
Yeah.
it's just after a while you can only talk about so
So much,
too.
yes. I think that I've learned, and I'm learning with like me interviewing the fighters with podcasts. I think that me and my team, instead of doing it like for us, like right now we're already at 46 minutes, but we've been flowing.
Mm-hmm.
So it just depends on the podcast and the conversation, right? But sometimes with the fighters, like you said, especially the amateurs right now, like they're not really media trained. They don't really know what to talk about. They don't, it's hard to, it's like pulling teeth. I mentioned that before.
Yeah.
And so with me now, it's like, I remember I was telling you, like I had an idea, like how, if I want to interview, I want to do like an embedded.
Mm-hmm.
Like I want to get there, walk in. I still want to eventually do something bigger, like go into the gyms and really get, but then I'm noticing the background of it. A lot of the gyms owners or the coaches are like, well, they don't want us to capture certain footage because fighting.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I understand. Obviously, we would edit it to the best that we could where you're not going to see too much, but more of like getting an inside look of the fighter, their process. Like we talk about it on the over here about how, you talk about imposter, going out there, culture shock, right? Same thing with fighters. I don't think people understand, like they're getting up. A lot of them work 9 to 5s.
Yeah.
Like they're at a job.
I would say like 90 to 100% of them have another job. Like very rarely do you have an amateur fighter.
I could just do it, yeah.
Yeah, that has just support off sponsors and his family. And I mean, if they do have that, it's like very blessed, and
Yeah,
they're
exactly.
very welcome to be in that position. Like
And I think as I've kind of gotten into this, now speaking of, your buddy has 100,000 subscribers. Like, bro, we're barely at 300, and I didn't quite understand. I'm still learning. So when I was like, I'm going to go all in on the podcast, I assumed, and once again, back to God's timing, certain sponsors were going to be on our side and we were going to be able to, and I knew we were going to become rich, but it wasn't going to be enough to kind of get by. So I might have to go back to a 9 to 5 and then just kind of as it works out and once back to God's timing. Because I feel like we wouldn't be where we're at today if I would have been working a 9 to 5.
By the way, I totally, I feel bad now. I didn't mean the 100K as like, flex towards him. I meant it more as he's a very good speaker, so he's able to go ahead and
everything is baby steps though. You understand? Like
100%.
we've only been doing this for 4 months, bro.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I have to do more on my end as far as like Isaiah, he goes live.
Yeah.
Other people are dropping a daily video. Like, bro, I just like to the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we go to the events, I do my part. Like I'll interview the fighters I had on, but I'm kind of just trying to like really kind of take everything in. I try to network the best I can because you guys do the intermission.
Yeah.
So when you do the intermission, I don't want to go bug. Like I see Enoch, he says what's up, we talk, but I don't want to go bug them every single time, right?
Yeah.
Or I don't want them to feel like I'm bugging. But I'm networking, and I can only ask certain fighters so many times, hey, do you want to come on? Like and which everyone's been pretty,
pretty cool about it. Yeah.
cool about it. Yeah. But it's like meeting Dan Manriquez, the last one.
Mhm.
I just met him. We're going to link up hopefully soon, but I try to do my job that way.
Yeah.
I don't want to necessarily like have to be working it too hard.
Mhm.
I want to be able to, enjoy it, at least take it in because I'm learning.
Yeah.
I can't get on a podcast with you and a guy like that or someone else, or even we'll bring up the high school sports.
Yeah.
I brought on 2 guys that have been covering it for 5+ years, both of them.
Mhm.
So these guys could drop, hey, Danuba's running back, Danuba's quarterback, Danuba's linebacker, right?
Yeah.
This guy's, dude, I don't know any of the
You don't
players.
know any of their names.
I only one I could probably tell you right now is the quarterback out of Kerman, Adrian Torres, because we had him on the podcast,
Yeah.
But other than that, give me a few years, give me a few times covering it, then I'm kind of like, okay, I'll remember this. Like you're dropping all these fighters' names, dude. That was cool.
Yeah.
You're talking about the event coming up for you guys, and you're not doing the names. I only know Josh Come Up Kid Simpson because I met him at Fight for the Fallen, and then I knew he was a fighter, and I found out he does MMA, right? Enoch, meeting him through Cisco and the Tri City guys, right? And everyone that we've been meeting, Madera Martial Arts, kind of meeting those guys. So it's all baby steps, and I feel like as we go, the last event, the Zacharias MMA, right? He just won the title.
Oh yes, Sagen,
right? So meeting him backstage. Oh, what's up, bro? Justin. So it's like everything's kind of coming into fruition. So I didn't take it as a knock, bro. You're good.
Mm-hmm.
It just takes time. And for me, I'm the kind of guy like I can be a little impulsive. Like, I gas on the I put on the gas, bro. I'm going. And so sometimes it's like, hey, slow down. It'll come to you, like. But that's just been my style since I was younger.
Yeah, no, 100%. And no, just like how you were saying earlier too. Like obviously, the more experienced and polished guys get with interviewing, with making content, so on and so forth, they're obviously going to be a little bit more with their words. They're going to be
for sure
a lot more, being able to speak up about certain things. So that's kind of more what I meant with the whole bedtime MMA thing. But very cool. Very cool that he was obviously able to come on, and like how you said, very cool that overall too, the 559 fights 118, like that whole event, it's just really cool that I have gotten to see the whole, like, I guess, rise up. I mean, I've worked with them now since this is 118, so I've been with them since 559 fights 90 was Lazarus Maldonado and George Burgos 2.
Dang,
I think that was
the
first event I worked.
So you got 10, 28 events.
Yeah, almost going on 30, man. Almost going on 30 events.
You got to do something for number 30.
We're gonna have to dirty 30 it up, dude. 30 it up, man.
Yeah,
have to go crazy for it.
That's awesome, bro. And like you said, it just starts. Look at where you were from that first event to where you're at now.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, what was I gonna tell you? I liked how I watched it back, bro. And then you're like, Madera, stand up, when Gabriel did the knockout, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of cool because we went to Madera Martial Arts.
Yeah.
Shout out to Coach Chris and to everyone out there. And we were trying to link up with these guys once again when they're in camp and they got stuff going on. Back to the 9 to 5s, and everyone got their thing going on, families and just all this stuff, right? Us as a podcast, we're trying to like not be pushy, but just kind of reminder. And then after, I always do baseball method.
Mm-hmm.
So like strike 1.
Yeah.
2. By 3, it's like, okay, now I don't want to be pushy.
Yeah. No,
so I feel like I bring it back to when the time is right, it'll align, But no, that was cool. I liked that call. And then, at the time when I got to talk to Gabriel and to Mike, Gabriel was like, yeah, bro, I like to bring it. And so I never really watched him fight. So it was kind of cool to be able to see it.
Yeah, no, you definitely seen it, man. No, and it's always cool when I get those calls in for guys, or just in general when I get those calls that connect to people. Like a lot of people are telling me they really enjoyed that Madera call, and so it's cool when I get to be on the mic for those type of moments, because I mean, hopefully those guys look back at those fights years from now and could be able to show those to their kids, and they're gonna be like, Madera, stand up. It's a cool little nod. I think
liked
it's a cool
it.
statement. They've always liked the Madera pride. They're big on Madtown over there, so I always try and show.
They're our neighbors, bro. Like growing up, they've always been right there. So that was kind of you and thoughtful of you to be like, hey, bro, Lou, if you want, I can get you a Madera. You don't have to travel too far. So it was always cool, like I said, and then they were very welcoming. I understand they got a lot going on. We're not really a mobile podcast, so I want everyone to know that. Oh, how'd you do the carnival? We did it with Farball Media Team.
Yeah.
So right now, as we're kind of growing, the next step is to try to be more mobile, and then I think we can go out and get more podcasts to the watchers, and then as we kind of the viewers,
get some like mobile mics, like some DJI, Rhodes or something like that,
and then we can kind of eventually bring more content, because right now I have to bring people either to us or we were in Fresno at a studio. But even there, like to get it booked in there, it's kind of been harder. So lately, I just been bringing people to the house and we just been podcasting from there.
No,
But yeah, no, dude, the one thing I would do, I bring everyone on and I kind of, don't want to just throw it in there or shove it in. Like I said, I'm more of a gentleman about it. And like the Lord is, what is your relationship like with the Lord?
Yeah, no. I mean, I've always had a very interesting relationship with like religion and stuff like that. I'm not very super tied to one religion.
Yeah,
I've never been like, oh yeah, I'm super Catholic. Oh yeah, I'm super Christian. But I do believe in, timing. I do believe in like spirituality. I do believe in, things aligning with everything in the right sense. I think that I know it sounds like a little bit, a little played out in today's society just because I feel like the word gets overused so much. But, I do believe in if you think about something enough, you will be able to achieve it. So the idea of manifestation, I do believe in that very, very much so. Like even too with the A1 combat job, like I used to write on the back of a notebook, like I will be a commentator for A1 combat one day. Like I used to write that, like, and I have that notebook somewhere and I've always wanted to post it. But for me, it's not about so much about showing it, but it's more about doing the actual thing and being able to show that it's real. And so, yeah, I've always had an idea of a religious-esque ideology, I've always been one to like, I'm not going to really dive into a religion. I'm not going to dive into like a Bible, or I'm not going to dive into like the Quran, or I'm not going to, but I believe if you live your life by a certain set of standards and, you're able to take ideas from each kind of religion, and live your life by that, then I think that's a way of living in itself. And I think that's, I'm not trying to say it's its own religion, but it's its own way of living. And I think that's its own righteous way of living, I think as long as you're a good person, what you do at the end of the day, then I think that's what matters, and I feel like that's where a lot of people kind of lose their path, is because they feel they have to subscribe to something. So they feel they maybe push themselves a little bit more towards a direction that maybe they're not ready for. And I always feel like because I'm so settled with myself and with my spirituality and with like, okay, cool, like, I know how I feel about myself. I know how I feel about my relationship with an upper being. I feel like I've never really been one to be super guilty on myself. Oftentimes a lot of people get down on themselves if they're not able to meet their expectations of their religion, or if they're not able to meet certain expectations of just their overall life standards, and I feel like for me, I've been able to pick myself up a lot and been able to rebuild off that, just because maybe I didn't have that overarching kind of pressure, maybe things would have been different, but who knows, maybe religion would have helped me, and it's one of those things where it's like, it's an interesting kind of subject for me. But yeah, no, I'm very, I would say spiritual, but I wouldn't say religious. I think those are two things that like oftentimes kind of get wielded into each other, but I feel they're very, very different in certain senses.
Yeah, no, I don't believe in religion. I'm not telling you not to go to church. I believe in relationship, though.
Yeah.
So like, it's your relationship with the Lord. Anyone could tell you. They could tell you like, oh, I'm a Christian. I'm a Catholic. I'm this, whatever denomination they claim. They can go to church every Sunday, but how you live in your life Monday through Saturday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you even
100%.
talking to God, or are you only going to Him when you need something? Or like for example, like I had told you prior, like I used to have a gambling problem,
Mm-hmm.
So I noticed myself like, please let me win this bet, and I'll never gamble again. And the next day I'm at it again.
You're like, dude, this 5-leg parlay is going to hit.
Yeah, so I totally understand it, and then obviously working in my prior career,
yeah,
I gotta see religion or that come in, them getting the Bible, doing Bible study, everything because I feel like a lot of people go to the Lord when you're at the bottom, right?
Yeah.
And for me, like this podcast wouldn't have started without the Lord. I feel like where I'm at today wouldn't be without the Lord. I'm not here to, like I said, shove it down anybody. It's just more to be like, I'm just here to let people know. And I mean, if you would know me before, like I told you, you know me before, bro, you'd be like, nah, bro, that's an act, and so it just, that's all it is mainly, like, but that's just that, like, nothing crazy, but I feel like it's all in His timing, and it's about relationship, not religion. I'm not telling you not to go to church, but nah, bro, is there anything else you want to talk about? I mean, I feel like this was a good part one. I definitely want to say that the whole point of you coming on was to get to know you, but to also October 19th, we have 559 fights. Is it going to be 119?
118, actually.
Okay,
so
118.
118 on the 19th. I know, a little bit of a trick of it. Yeah, 559 fights, 118 live on 559 fights YouTube for members, and for UFC Fight Pass, you can go ahead and watch that later on demand. So it's going to be a fun show over there. Really, really excited to see all the guys from the Central Valley show out and just overall get a great platform to go ahead and perform at. Decided to go ahead and have you out there as well.
Yeah.
Possibly talking to a couple of the guys over there and, doing your thing.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah.
And then obviously we'll have some UFC guys out there, Raul Rosas, and then the other one,
Yusuf Salal, have you out there as well.
They'll be out there kind of being around. I know that we're not going to have MLH on the commentary, but you'll be more on the outside kind of running operations.
Yeah. You guys will see me like a chicken with my head cut off running around. So maybe not too much on the TV side of things. You guys will see me, but definitely be contributing to a lot of the things going on at the current event. So make sure to go ahead and tune in, and really, really excited for this whole event to go down, and really excited to have you out there, man, once again.
No, I appreciate it, bro. Well, thank you for stopping by. And this was a great part one, dude, to get to really know who you were and just talk about the event. And we look forward to, the future.
Yeah, man. I look forward to it again, man.
Alrighty, bro. Thank you.
Bye.